You won't live here anymore, but you'll keep paying up anyways. My stepmom kicked me out of my own home thinking she'd won. Turns out when I stopped paying the property taxes, her empire fell faster than her attitude. Hey, Reddit. So a while back, I went through something that completely flipped my life upside down. Family, money, loyalty, all of it. What started as me trying to help my dad keep our home turned into a mess I didn't see coming. It's not one of those poor me stories either. I learned a lot, lost a lot, and maybe got a little payback along the way. Buckle up. This one's about family, greed, and knowing when to walk away. You ever look back at a time in your life and think, yeah, that was probably the last time things actually made sense? That's how I feel when I think about my parents before everything went to hell. My mom and dad had one of those marriages people called solid. Not perfect. They'd argue sometimes, but they fit. And then cancer showed up like some uninvited guest who refused to leave. She went fast. Too fast. I was 19 when she died. Dad was a ghost at her funeral. He just stood there, jaw locked, eyes glazed over like someone hit pause on him. I'd never seen my father cry before, but that day broke something in him. After the funeral, the house went quiet. I'd find Dad sitting in the dark living room with the TV off, just staring at nothing. I'd ask if he wanted to eat, and he'd mumble something about not being hungry. He stopped shaving for a while, stopped paying attention to anything. I thought that if I kept things together, maybe Dad would eventually find his footing again. He didn't. A few months later, I started noticing mail piling up on the counter, mostly bills. Mom had been sick for a long time before she passed, so some of those bills had been slipping for years. Then came the red-stamped envelopes, late notices. I remember opening one from the county about unpaid property taxes. My heart dropped. I checked the rest. There were 3 years' worth of back taxes, overdue and growing. I brought it up to Dad one night. He was sitting in his recliner, staring at an empty glass. Dad, the house taxes haven't been paid, I said. He blinked at me, like I just told him the sky was blue. Your mom handled that stuff, he muttered. I don't know how any of that works. That was it. No plan, no concern, just another shrug. I stayed up late that night at the kitchen table, sorting through envelopes and receipts. The total was ugly. If someone didn't pay soon, the county would move toward a tax sale, meaning they could take the house. I couldn't let that happen, so I started making payments. Quietly. First a few hundred here and there, then regular installments. I took on extra shifts, ate cheap, skipped vacations, and just paid whatever I could. It wasn't easy. Half the time, my paycheck barely stretched far enough to cover everything. But watching those balances slowly shrink felt like keeping Mom's spirit alive somehow. Dad never asked how the bills got handled, and I never told him. He'd stopped being curious about anything that required effort. The man I grew up admiring had turned into this quiet, tired shadow who just existed. Some nights, I'd sit in the living room and look around at the framed photos. Mom smiling in the garden, the 3 of us at the beach, her birthday last year, and think about how she used to say, "This house is our safe place." That line stuck with me. So I made it my mission to protect that place, even if it meant doing it alone. I didn't do it for Dad. Not really. I did it for her. Every time I dropped off a payment at the county office, I'd think, you don't get to take her home. At the time, I didn't know that same house, the one I fought to save, would one day turn into the reason I finally walked away from my father for good. After Mom died, the house stopped feeling like a home and started feeling like a slow leak in my sanity. It started small. A drink after dinner. Then a drink before dinner. Then dinner just stopped happening. Within a year, I couldn't walk into the kitchen without stepping on a bottle cap or glass shard. The house smelled like stale air and spilled beer. He'd stumble in from errands, reeking of it, slurring, "You think you're better than me? You think you know everything?" I'd bite my tongue. Some nights he'd pass out on the couch mid-rant, and I'd throw a blanket over him just so I didn't have to see him like that. Other nights, he'd smash a bottle in the sink because nothing works in this damn house. Once, I found him outside at 2 a.m., sitting on the curb, crying about Mom. I told him to come inside, but he just waved me off. "Go inside, son. You don't need to see your old man like this." I did go inside, because if I stayed, I might have said something I'd regret. Meanwhile, the bills kept showing up, and so did the responsibilities he'd forgotten existed. Property taxes, insurance, water, electric, all me. I'd get up at 6, work until late, come home, and clean up his mess. Then I'd stay up doing spreadsheets, trying to make sure we wouldn't lose the house. He started demanding money directly. "You're working now, right? Bring something to the table." "I already do," I'd remind him. "Don't talk back to me," he'd snap. pointing with the same hand that held another drink. It stopped feeling like helping and started feeling like servitude. I thought about leaving 100 times. I'd even packed once. Stood there with my bag ready, my car keys in hand, staring at the hallway, at Mom's framed photo. Her smile made me freeze. I couldn't walk out. She wouldn't have wanted me to leave him like that, not when he was already broken. So I stayed. Weeks bled into months, months into years. Every time I hoped he'd get better, he found a new way to prove he wouldn't. Relatives stopped visiting. Neighbors pretended not to see us. You could feel the silence when you walked by the house, like people didn't want to be associated with whatever was happening inside. Once, our next-door neighbor, Mr. Green, stopped me while I was taking out the trash. He looked uncomfortable and said, "You're doing your best, kid." That was code for, "We hear everything." One night after another screaming match, I called my aunt, my mom's sister. She was one of the few people still willing to talk about him. She sighed the second she heard my voice. "How bad is it this time?" "Bad enough," I said. "He's not even pretending to try anymore." There was a pause. "You can't fix him, sweetheart," she said. "He's grieving in his own broken way. Maybe he just needs something new." "New?" "Yeah, someone to shake him out of it. He's lonely. Maybe he needs to meet someone." I laughed at first. "You think a woman's gonna fix this?" "No," she said, "but it might get him off the bottle." It sounded dumb, but the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. He was stuck in this loop. Same chair, same bottle, same guilt. Maybe a distraction would break the cycle. So I brought it up one night when he was unusually sober. We were sitting in silence, TV on but muted. "Dad," I said, "you ever thought about meeting someone? I mean, Mom wouldn't have wanted you like this." He gave me this look, half confusion, half offense. "You think some woman's gonna fix me?" "I think you're already broken, so what's the harm?" I said. He actually laughed. First time I'd heard him laugh in months. "You got a mouth on you," he said, pointing at me. "Fine. Maybe you're right. I didn't expect him to actually do it." But a week later, he mentioned he'd met someone at the grocery store. Said her name like it was a prize he'd won. When she came over the first time, I watched him smile for the first time in years. It felt strange, like watching a stranger use my dad's face. I stood in the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, watching them laugh over coffee. Part of me thought, maybe this could be good for him. The other part whispered, "You have no idea what's coming." And I didn't. Because that woman, the one who made him laugh that night, would eventually turn our home into a battlefield I'd never step foot in again. Her name was Sandra, the kind of woman who smiled like she already owned the place before she even walked in. Dad was obsessed with her from the start. I tried to be decent. I really did. He hadn't been happy in years, and if she could give him that, fine. But I should have trusted my gut the first week she moved in. Her and her 2 teenagers, who treated respect like it was optional. It started small. She wanted to freshen up the place. Fair enough. But freshen up apparently meant turning our home into her personal showroom. Within 2 weeks, Mom's vases were gone, replaced with something modern. The old photo of Mom and Dad that had hung by the staircase for decades? Down. She said it threw off the aesthetic. One afternoon, I came home to find her in the living room with a paint roller covering the walls Mom had chosen. The soft blue Mom loved was gone, replaced by beige. Lifeless beige. "Hey," I said, standing in the doorway. Would have been nice to ask before repainting the house. She didn't even look up. "You don't pay the mortgage, sweetheart. Your opinion doesn't come with the property." "I pay the taxes," I said flatly. She smiled, not a nice smile. "Then consider this community service." That was the moment I knew I hated her. Her kids were just as bad, loud, messy, and acting like they were on a vacation they never had to leave. The girl blasted music from her room every night. The boy borrowed my tools without asking and broke half of them. I'd find their dirty dishes on the coffee table, juice stains on the couch, and crumbs all over the floor. I didn't even bother cleaning after a while. At dinner, the air was thick enough to choke on. She'd brag about her parenting while her son burped mid-meal. She'd correct how I sat, how I ate, even how I talked to my dad. "So, what exactly do you do again?" she asked once, voice dripping with fake curiosity. "I work in logistics," I said. "Oh, like shipping boxes?" she said, smirking. Dad chuckled like she'd just told a clever joke. That laugh cut deeper than any insult. I started avoiding the house, staying late at work, eating in my car, doing anything to be gone before she started her next performance. But she noticed. She always noticed. "You think you're better than us?" she said one night as I was heading to my room. "You walk around here like some landlord." "I've been here longer than you've been breathing my air," I shot back. She crossed her arms. "Not for long." The fights became routine. I'd find her moving Mom's keepsakes into boxes, calling them clutter. I'd move them back. She'd move them again. The woman was like a virus that thrived on control. One evening, I found her wearing my mom's bracelet, the same one Dad gave her on their 10th anniversary. "That's not yours," I said. She shrugged. "It was lying around. Thought it was pretty." "That's my mother's." She smirked. "Then you should have taken better care of it." I saw red. That night, I went to Dad. He was sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through his phone, pretending not to hear the chaos. "I need to talk to you," I said. He sighed, not even looking up. "If this is about her again, it's about everything. She's disrespectful. Her kids are destroying the place, and she's wearing Mom's jewelry like she owns it." He finally looked at me, eyes tired but cold. "You always told me to get my act together, right? To move on? Now I'm doing that. And you can't stand it." "You call this moving on?" I said. "You're letting her rewrite our entire life." He leaned back in his chair, smirking like he'd won something. Maybe that's what this house needed. Someone who actually wants to live in it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He sounded like her. From that point on, I stopped trying to reason with either of them. But she didn't stop. She doubled down. She started leaving little notes around the house. Passive-aggressive garbage like, "Remember to pick up after yourself, big boy." Her kids started calling me roommate. Then one night, after another useless argument about whose turn it was to take out the trash, she cornered me by the kitchen sink. "Let's get something straight," she said, crossing her arms. "You won't live here anymore, but you'll keep paying up. You've been doing it all these years anyway." I laughed, sharp and humorless. "You really think I'd pay for you to live here?" Her eyes narrowed. "You owe your father. Without him, you wouldn't even have a roof over your head." "Funny," I said. "Without me, he wouldn't have a roof at all." She didn't like that answer. She stormed off to complain to him, probably twisting the story like she always did. But I didn't care. I stood there for a long time, staring at the sink, listening to her voice echo down the hall. That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't my home anymore. It was a circus, and I was the only one who knew it. I didn't pack that night, but mentally, I was already gone. After that conversation with her, the house stopped feeling like anything but a waiting room I couldn't leave fast enough. I started working late, coming home when I knew they were asleep, but it didn't matter. Every day, the place looked less like my home and more like a hotel for freeloaders. I started planning my exit quietly, a few boxes at a time. Clothes first, then small things, chargers, papers, Mom's old books. I'd tape them shut and stack them in the corner of my room. Didn't even bother hiding it. They probably thought I was bluffing. Turns out they were already making plans of their own. One afternoon, I came home early from work and found her daughter in my room, my old room, standing on my bed, hammering something into the wall. A glittery pink frame that said, "Queen of Everything." My shelves were half empty, my stuff boxed up and moved into the hallway. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked. She looked at me like I was the intruder. "Mom said I could start moving in. You're leaving anyway, right?" I stared at her for a second, then just walked out. I wasn't about to argue with a teenager raised by someone like her, but that moment stuck. It hit me that I wasn't just losing a house. I was losing every trace of my mom left inside it. So that night, I decided to take the one thing that still felt like her, the jewelry box. It was this small, dark cherry wood box with a broken latch and a faded rose carving on top. She kept all her little keepsakes in there. The necklace my grandma gifted her, the bracelet Dad gave her, the earrings I bought her with my first paycheck, a folded photo of the three of us from a beach trip when I was 10. I hadn't opened it since she passed. I went to grab it from her dresser in the master bedroom, what used to be their bedroom. But when I walked in, I froze. The jewelry box was on the vanity, wide open, and there she was, Sandra, wearing my mom's gold necklace. She turned around slowly, like she'd been waiting for me. "Looking for something?" I clenched my jaw. "Yeah, that necklace doesn't belong to you." She smiled, that same smug, fake smile she always used when she wanted to irritate me. "It does now. This is my house. Everything inside it belongs to me." "That's my mother's," I said, stepping closer. She laughed, low and mocking. "Your mother's gone. I'm the woman of this house now." I reached for the jewelry box, but she stepped in front of me, blocking the dresser. Then she did something that made my skin crawl. She ran her fingers down my chest. Her voice dropped. "You know, you're not bad looking when you're angry. Maybe if you stopped acting so uptight, we could actually get along." I stepped back instantly. "You're disgusting." Her expression flipped in a second, from smug to fake offended. "Excuse me?" "Take that necklace off," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Now." She crossed her arms. "Or what?" You'll hit me? She tilted her head, smirking again. This is my house. That box stays here, and so do its memories. Maybe even you. That last part sent something sharp through me. I don't belong here, and I don't belong to you. I pushed past her, grabbed the jewelry box, and started walking out. The necklace slipped off her neck in the struggle, clattering onto the vanity. I picked it up too. Mom's necklace wasn't staying with her. That's when I heard her scream. He touched me. Mark, he tried to touch me. For a second, I thought she was joking, until I heard footsteps pounding down the hall. Dad stormed in, eyes wide and furious. What the hell did you do? I spun around, shocked. You can't be serious. She was crying now, crocodile tears running down her face. He came in here and I told him to stop. Dad's face went red. He stepped toward me, fist clenched. You better tell me that's not true. Are you listening to yourself? I said. She's lying, Dad. He swung. Instinct kicked in. I caught his wrist midair before it landed. For a second, neither of us moved, just stood there, breathing heavy. Then I pushed his hand away. I stared him dead in the eye. I don't even recognize you anymore. Sandra kept fake sobbing behind him, clutching her chest like she was in a movie. Dad glared at me like I was some stranger who'd broken into his home. Get out, he said finally. Now. I didn't say a word. I just grabbed my bag, tucked the jewelry box under my arm, and walked past both of them. As I left, I heard her whisper something to him. Couldn't catch all of it, but I'm pretty sure it ended with, finally. I walked out the front door, box in hand, and didn't look back. The air outside felt cold, clean, like the first breath after holding it too long. I drove straight to a friend's place and crashed on his couch for a few nights. Didn't answer any of Dad's calls. Didn't check my messages. The only thing I did was open that jewelry box once. The smell of old perfume hit me. Inside was that folded beach photo, still there, still smiling. That's when I decided I wasn't going back. Not for him, not for her, not for anyone. That house was dead to me. But apparently, it still had a pulse for the county tax office. About 6 weeks after I moved out, I got a call from Dad. It was early. Too early for anything good. I stared at my phone for a second before answering. Hey, I said flatly. Son, he started, already sounding irritated. I got a notice from the county. Something about unpaid property taxes. You know anything about that? I leaned back in my chair. Yeah, I said. They're unpaid because I stopped paying them. Silence. Then his voice cracked, half angry, half confused. You what? I stopped paying, I repeated. I moved out, remember? Not my home anymore. He huffed into the phone. You can't just stop. You've been paying them for years. Yeah, I said, keeping my tone calm. And now I'm not. Funny how that works. I could practically hear Sandra in the background, whispering like a snake. Then she yelled loud enough for me to catch it. He's ungrateful. After everything you've done for him. I laughed quietly. You might want to tell your wife, I said, that she was the one who told me this isn't my home. Not my home, not my bill. Don't be smart with me, Dad snapped. Then stop giving me reasons to be, I replied, and hung up. After that, I didn't hear from him for a while. But the silence didn't last. The neighbors started calling my uncle, who, of course, called me, saying things were getting ugly at the house. Apparently, the county sent more notices, this time with penalty warnings. She's saying it's your fault, my uncle told me one night, that you abandoned your father. I almost laughed. Yeah, well, tell her she can abandon the mall for 5 minutes and pick up a job. My uncle sighed. She's not going to. She's too busy spending his money. His non-existent money, I corrected. He didn't argue. A few weeks later, I got another call, this time from a different number. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. It was Dad again, sounding tired, weaker somehow. Son, we need to talk, he said. We? I asked. Or you and your accountant? Don't start, he said, sighing. I'm behind on the taxes. The bill's higher than I thought. With the penalties, I can't pay it? I finished. He didn't answer. I could hear Sandra in the background again, talking over him. Something about how it was my responsibility since I'd been handling it before. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Let me guess. She thinks I'm still the family ATM? Don't talk about her like that, he said, defensive as ever. Then tell her to stop pretending she's my boss, I said. You let her kick me out. You let her say I don't belong there. So guess what? I don't. There was silence for a few seconds before he muttered, You're punishing me for her mistakes. No, I said, calm and cold. You punished yourself the day you believed her lies over your own son. I hung up. After that, things went downhill fast. The next month, my uncle called again. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "Your dad's been borrowing money from everyone. Me, a couple of his old buddies, even the neighbor across the street. He's desperate." "Let me guess," I said. "She's still buying decorations for her new dream home." "Worse," he said. "She's yelling that he tricked her. Turns out she thought he was rich. Now she's threatening to leave." I just shook my head. "Well," I said, "she married for money. Shame she forgot to check the balance first." Apparently, that line of gossip spread around the block faster than fire. Neighbors told my uncle that Sandra had been throwing things at Dad during their fights. Plates, remotes, whatever was closest. One night, someone called the cops. No charges, but it got everyone talking. When Dad called again, his tone was different. Defeated. "Can we meet?" he asked. "Just talk, face to face." I hesitated but agreed. Curiosity? Maybe pity? I don't know. We met at a diner near my new apartment. The second I saw him, I barely recognized him. His hair was grayer, eyes sunken, shoulders slumped like the weight of the world had finally crushed him. He sat down across from me, hands shaking slightly. "I messed up," he said quietly. "I didn't realize how bad things had gotten. She's not who I thought she was." I nodded slowly. "Yeah, I tried telling you that when she called me a tenant." He didn't argue, just stared at the coffee cup like it had all the answers. "I need help," he said finally. I leaned back. Define help. "The taxes. The late fees. I can't keep up." I thought for a second, then said, "All right, I'll help you the right way. I'll loan you the money, officially. I'll draw up a contract. You pay me back over time, with interest." He blinked. "You'd treat your own father like a bank client?" "You treated me like a tenant," I said. "Seems fair." His jaw tightened. "You've changed." "Yeah," I said. "I had to." He didn't take the offer. Pride, ego. Maybe both. Instead, he stormed out of the diner, muttering about how I'd forgotten what family means. A week later, my uncle called again. "Your dad asked me for money. Said you wouldn't help." I sighed. "And you gave it to him, didn't you?" He paused. "Yeah, of course he did." But apparently, my uncle didn't just give him money. He gave him an earful, too. Told him exactly what I'd done for years, how much I'd sacrificed. That phone call must have been fun. I didn't know it at the time, but that decision, him borrowing from my uncle, was the final domino. The start of a collapse that made every choice he'd made since Mom died come back to crush him. And honestly, I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. I'd spent almost a decade saving that house, paying for it, holding it together. And the second I stopped, everything started crumbling exactly the way I knew it would. Months passed. I didn't hear much at first, just the occasional update from my uncle. But when I did, it was always bad news. Apparently, the house had turned into a full-blown war zone. The fights between Dad and Sandra were now daily entertainment for the whole neighborhood. Shouting, slamming doors, stuff breaking. People said it sounded like a reality show with no cameras. Turns out they'd done a quick courthouse wedding about 6 months after she moved in. No one was invited, not even me. He said it just felt right. Guess it stopped feeling right once the bills hit. Sandra wanted more money. Dad had none. The bills kept coming. The tax penalties were stacking like a Jenga tower, and the house was practically sinking under its own debt. My uncle told me Dad had called him again, begging for another loan, but this time he said no. "I'm done enabling him," he said. "You already carried that house for years." It's his turn to feel it. It felt strange hearing that, because for the first time, I wasn't the one trying to fix things. Then the call came, not from Dad, but from a friend who still lived on our street. "Hey man," he said awkwardly. "I don't know how to say this, but it's getting ugly over there." Police showed up last night. Someone said Sandra threw something at your dad. Big scene. Her kids were outside screaming. I thanked him and hung up, shaking my head. The image of that chaos in the same house that used to smell like my mom's cooking made me sick. A few weeks later, my uncle confirmed it. Sandra had filed for divorce. "She's demanding a share," he said over the phone. "Her lawyer's pushing for half the house, claiming she's entitled because of the marital period and the so-called improvements she made." I laughed. "Yeah, good luck with that. The liens alone make the place worth less than her fake nails." "Funny thing," he said. "Her lawyer already found out the house isn't worth anything. With all the liens and penalties, it's practically owned by the county." That made me pause. After all the years of paying and protecting that house, it had finally become worthless, just like I warned Dad it would if he kept ignoring reality. But the worst part wasn't the money, it was what I heard next. My uncle had stopped by the house with Dad to drop off some paperwork. While he was there, Dad let him in to grab a few tools from the garage. That's when he took a look around. "You won't believe what I saw," he said. "Those kids, Sandra's kids, they destroyed your old room. I'm talking holes in the drywall, busted shelves, broken lamp. The carpet looks like someone spilled paint all over it. Everything your mom left in there is gone." For a moment, I didn't say anything. Just sat there gripping my phone. "Gone how?" I asked finally. He hesitated. He said he threw some things out after they trashed it. Figured it was too painful to keep. Painful for him, maybe. For me, that room was the last piece of my mom's world. Hearing it was ruined felt like losing her all over again. A few days later, Dad finally called. His voice was barely recognizable. Shaky, hoarse, like someone who hadn't slept in days. "Son," he said quietly, "I messed up. I really messed up." "I know," I said. He took a deep breath. "She's gone. She took the kids, the car, everything she could. Left me with the bills. The lawyer says I might lose the house completely. I can't afford the legal fees or the penalties. I don't even have enough for groceries right now." I didn't say anything. Just listened. "I should have listened to you," he said after a long pause. "You tried to warn me and I didn't want to see it. I thought she cared. I thought I was doing the right thing moving on." "She cared," I said dryly. "About your wallet." He let out a shaky laugh, more like a sigh. "You're not wrong." Then, softer, "I'm sorry. For everything." For a second, I almost felt bad. Almost. Then he asked the one thing I never thought I'd hear again. "Would you ever consider moving back in? I could use the help. Maybe we can fix it up. Start over." I sat there, staring at the wall of my apartment. Small, quiet, but mine. No shouting, no broken glass, no ghosts. Just peace. "Dad," I said finally. "No. I'm not coming back to that house." He didn't say anything. Just breathed into the phone. I could tell he knew it was final. After a while, I added, "But I'll help you sell it. Get it off your hands before the county does. It's the smart move." "You'd help me after everything?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Not because you deserve it. Because Mom wouldn't want me to leave you like this." He didn't argue. Just said, "All right." We hung up and I sat there for a while thinking about how everything had come full circle. The house, the debt, the destruction. I'd spent years trying to keep it alive, and now I was the one putting it to rest. A week later, I met him at the property to start sorting through the paperwork. The place looked worse than I imagined. Yard overgrown, paint peeling, windows dirty. Inside smelled like mildew and stale air. Dad looked smaller somehow, standing in that wreckage. "I don't know how it got this bad," he muttered. "You do," I said. "You just don't want to admit it." He nodded slowly. "You're right. It took everything in me not to say I usually am. But I didn't. I just helped him box up the few things that weren't ruined. Old photos, tools, and what was left of Mom's furniture. By the end of the day, the place was half empty, and Dad was half broken. That night, I emailed a real estate contact and started the process to sell it. It wasn't home anymore. It was just a structure full of memories I'd already outgrown. I told myself once the sale went through, I'd never look back. But life has a way of making sure unfinished business finds you again. And in my case, it had 4 wheels, and Sandra's greedy fingerprints all over it. When I started gathering the last documents for the sale, something didn't add up. My dad's car, the gray sedan I helped him buy years ago, wasn't on the property. He shrugged when I asked about it. "Sandra took it when she left," he said, rubbing his temples. "Said it was hers since she drove it more." I stared at him. "Dad, the car's still titled in both our names. You remember whose credit got the loan approved?" "Mine." His eyes widened. "Wait, you're still listed on it?" "Yeah," I said. "Congratulations. Your runaway wife just drove off in a car co-owned by the 2 of us." He groaned. "Son, just let it go. She's gone. But I wasn't about to let that go. Not after everything. Not after she tried to destroy my life in my own house and then drove away in something I paid for." I went home that night and pulled out the old folder with the car's records. My name right there next to his, along with the financing documents showing I made half the payments back when he couldn't. She'd basically stolen from both of us. The next morning, I filed a report for unlawful possession of shared property. I didn't tell Dad until after the police confirmed they were tracking it. A week later, they found it parked outside some guy's place 2 counties over, apparently her new boyfriend. Figures. She must have thought she could outsmart everyone. Since the title was in both our names and she refused to return it, I filed a civil replevin action. Her lawyer tried to argue she was the primary driver, but my attorney showed payment records and registration with both signatures. The judge ordered the car returned and made her cover damages and court costs. I didn't even keep it. I sold it the same week. Watching that money hit my account felt like a final win. Not because of greed, but because it was closure. That car represented every stupid thing she took from us. And now, I'd taken it back. Meanwhile, the house finally sold. It didn't go for much, but enough to cover the back taxes, the penalties, and pay off my uncle. I made sure every cent was documented, every bill cleared. I even handled the closing paperwork because Dad couldn't deal with the stress anymore. When the keys changed hands, I didn't feel sad. Just relief. The house had been a battlefield for too long, and now it was someone else's problem. Dad moved into a small condo a few weeks later. I helped him carry boxes in, set up his furniture, got his Wi-Fi connected, and that was it. No emotional speeches, no dramatic moments. Just quiet work. When I left, he stood by the door and said, "I don't deserve your help after what I did." I looked at him and said, "You don't, but you're still my dad." He nodded, eyes glassy. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good," I said, "because I don't." A week later, he called and asked to meet for lunch. I went, mostly out of curiosity. He looked older, but calmer. He didn't dance around it this time. He apologized. Not the half-baked kind he used to give, but a real one. "I lost everything trying to fix a loneliness that couldn't be fixed," he said. "And I hurt the one person who actually cared. I can't change it, but I'm sorry." For a second, I didn't know what to say. I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. "I appreciate it," I said finally. "But I'm not coming back. I've got my own life now." He nodded. "You should. You earned it." That was the last time we talked about the past. One night, Dad called just to ask how I was doing. No favors, no guilt, just a normal call. We talked for 20 minutes about random things. My job, the weather, his new neighbor who apparently thinks he's funny. We laughed. It felt weirdly normal. As for Sandra, I never heard from her again after the lawsuit. Word through my uncle was she tried the same gold-digging act on someone else and got kicked out after 2 months. Karma doesn't miss payments either. Sometimes I drive past the old neighborhood. The house looks different. New paint, new owners, trimmed lawn. No ghosts left. Just a structure, exactly what it became in the end. I don't miss it. I don't miss her. I don't even miss the version of my dad I used to know. I just like where I ended up. My own place, my own peace, and no one telling me I owe them anything. Mom used to say people show their true colors when money's on the line. She was right. They did. And for the first time, I didn't lose myself trying to fix them. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.